Hannah Murray on TRE in the afternoon.
Good afternoon. Joining us on the line now is Alex Atherton. He's an experienced educator, keynote speaker and leadership coach. He spent 25 years working in inner city comprehensive schools, of which half was spent as a head teacher in London. His new book, The Snowflake Myth, is an insightful analysis of Gen Z. He challenges the negative stereotypes surrounding Generation Z, saying they are our most diligent, pragmatic and patient generation yet. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Oh, it's great to have you with us. My first question is, as non-Americans, do we say Gen Z or Gen Z?
Ooh, good question. When I'm speaking at a conference or event, that's the first thing I ask the audience. What do you want me to call them? So I've got now a sort of a fair history of how that might go. And I would say 2/3 of the time they say Z.
Yeah.
But increasingly, they say we'll go with Z. Not that we're trying to change how to pronounce the last letter of the alphabet, but it sort of rolls off the tongue a bit more. And actually, in the UK at least, it's what they would tend to call themselves, should they use it at all.
Ah, interesting. Okay. So I'm not sure what I'm going to use then.
Go with Z. Let's go with Z.
Let's go with Z. Okay, perfect.
Go with Z.
It's a weird one, isn't it? It's funny.
Yeah.
So this is a really interesting subject. So snowflakes, I think a lot of people have heard that expression used on Gen Z. So another thing to ask you, so we're all on the same page, what kind of age are we talking about? Who are Gen Z?
Yeah, so you'll see different years used in different places, but the most common set of dates is 97 to 2012 for years of birth. So we're now sort of mid-teens up to late 20s.
Okay, perfect. 97 to 2012. Okay. And why do you think over the years they have had a bit of a bad reputation and called things like snowflakes?
Yeah, I think there's always, this is an age-old story to an extent. It creates good copy for the older generation buying the newspaper, looking at the news story, to be told that the younger generation is not as good as you were, right? People tend to like that.
Yes, the young people of today have no idea.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Things are not what they used to be, etc. And so on. And I remember having that, growing up. You're born in early 70s. Well, you don't remember the war. Well, no, and I couldn't either, or what it was like afterwards. And I remember sort of being looked at in disgust that I might have some kind of clerical office job rather than something manual.
Right.
So, it's that these are not new. These are not new issues. I think with this, I started looking because I just got completely sick of hearing how my former students are being described in the media, by peers, clients, all those kinds of things. So I started digging, but I do think this is the first generation that don't remember life before smartphones.
Yeah.
And broadband and social media and all those kinds of things. And it's they've spent their childhood differently. And they've spent less time talking to adults and people from other generations, less time working with them. There's a lot of those in their teens, early 20s who might be studying and they're also working, but they're doing it from home, buying and selling stuff, that kind of thing, not in a workplace. Mm-hmm. So I was just getting a very common complaint that the youngest generation in the workplace are different. We can't find them. When we find them, we can't keep them. When we do keep them, we don't understand them. So the book is an attempt to bridge that gap.
Yeah. It's a weird one, isn't it? It's really easy to look at young people and particularly with the advent of technology and just say, they're always on their smartphones and they're always on their devices.
So
and
many adults.
Well, quite, absolutely. But
many in their 30s, 40s, 50s.
Oh, definitely. But as you point out, we didn't have access to social media and smartphones and computer games and things like that when we were growing up. If we did, did, we no doubt would have had exactly the same issues. It's not the fault of the generation that they have access to all of these things, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for my generation, it was TV.
Yeah.
It's rotting your brain.
Yeah.
You're just sitting in front. You don't even have to get up to change channel anymore. How lazy is that? They've, remote controls, and now there's a fourth channel. And, again, youth of today, you're not out there working in the fields or, playing whatever. You're just sitting watching TV.
Yeah.
So, similar themes.
Absolutely. So what were some of the things when you started researching into this? What did you find out about Generation Z that made you look at them in a more positive light?
Well, let's say a common complaint was the idea you've got to have everything instantly these days. They just want everything now. They want, there's got to be an app for everything, no patience for anything whatsoever. And we've probably all got used to the takeaway being 6 stops away, or the delivery or whatever else it might be. But the economic inheritance of Gen Z is pretty shocking compared to what came before. And in terms of the patience they are having to display in order to reach some of life's key milestones, should they wish to reach them, like buying property or getting married or having children, they're having to be extraordinarily patient for that. Mm-hmm. So they might expect, well, if I want to buy something, then I get the receipt straight away and I can track where it's coming from and all those kind of things. Or at work, get a job, then want to know how to get promoted and get the next ladder when you haven't been there very long. All those kinds of things. But in terms of their life over time, and in particular, not just marriage or having children, but whether this is a generation that can afford to retire. I think it's quite possible that retirement, UK at least, was something that started soon after the Second World War and it finished about 90 years later. Because of, which is not an optimistic position, but in terms of what they see for their life's prospects, and the young professionals I've spoken to who have come out of university with £50,000 worth of debt, a first-class degree, and are working in hospitality because the jobs weren't there. Yeah. The circumstances where I came into the workplace were far better than they have had. Yeah.
It does seem really, really tough. And it seems to be getting tougher, with a increase in prices of everything, whether it's housing or grocery shopping or whatever. It's harder and harder for grown adults, never mind young people who are starting out with pretty much nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, UK, we've just had the 39th month in a row of the number of job vacancies falling. So where AI are taking out early entry jobs, it's affecting them. Where there's restructures and redundancies, there's a lot of last in, first out going on. I've liaised with young professionals that have applied for 500 jobs, 1,000 jobs.
No way.
Yeah, no, they are. And there's a lot of organisations using AI to sift through them and not necessarily discussing it, and an awful lot of candidates writing applications using AI and not disclosing that either. But there's also been a lot of young professionals applying to companies that are posting a job in the places where you'd expect to see them, and they turn out not to be a company at all. They're just data mining because there's a lot of valuable information on CVs.
God, that's terrible.
So it is really hard for them out there at the moment. And so when I sort of heard my peers describe them in various derogatory ways, I thought, okay, I'm not having that. I'm gonna say something and point out a few comparisons.
Yeah, absolutely. Good for you. I think people would be really shocked to hear those statistics about the applying for 500 or 1,000 jobs. I don't think anyone, our kind of age or above could relate to that. I mean, I remember all the various times I was looking for a job in my life, and I mean, I'm sure this necessarily isn't the case for everyone, but it seemed relatively easy. I'd kind of apply to a job and either not hear back, and then I'd apply for another one, get an interview and start that. You know, it didn't seem like a really difficult thing to do.
Yeah. And then I think because demand and supply are in a very different place to what they were a couple of years ago, I heard a lot of young professionals talk about just endless stages in the process, or not being told what the process would be at the beginning, and then they're told they've got through and they think, oh, right, I've got a job, but oh no, you're just into stage 3 and then there's a 4, and just going on forever, and not a lot of transparency about it either.
Yeah. My nephew, who would be Generation Z, lives in Spain, actually, in the Costa Blanca, and he was applying for a job as a teacher. And I was really shocked to hear how many of them, or most of them, just didn't respond. You know, they were advertising for jobs, and, you know, he'd had put the CV together, had the relevant qualifications and whatever. It's his first job. It was his first job going out into the workplace. And it was really quite depressing and demoralizing, you know, or exciting, going to the workplace. This is going to be your first job, and sending all these CVs out and just not getting a response. And it was a shock. Yeah.
It is, but I also think there's no excuse for that now.
No.
You know, with the technology and so on, there's no excuse for people not being in the loop, people not being told what might happen and when. And the truth is, when the job market does improve, and when organisations are scrambling more to get candidates than they're having to at the moment, I think quite a lot of young professionals will remember how they might have been treated in this or that company or this or that industry.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does. The fact that everything's done by email now and not actual letters, you know, it's so easy to reply to someone's email saying, thank you for your email, we will consider your application and get back to you, or whatever.
Just automate it.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. It doesn't need to be a long, drawn-out email. And if and when the position is filled, just to let you know this position is now filled. You know. That's
right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is the least bit of courtesy that they deserve.
Yeah, because, you know, if they wanted that person, they'd reply. They'd expect them to come in whenever is convenient to the company. You know, they'd want the person wanting the job to rally round to what they needed. So they should give the same courtesy back when someone's reaching out wanting to work in your workplace.
Yeah, it's true. And I think some of that's been eroded on both sides, because a very common complaint that employers say to me is that the person they gave the job to then doesn't turn up on the first day.
Oh, gosh.
So you then
That's not good, is it?
No, it's not. And I think, well, cost of living as it is, you know, they're still looking. I say to organisations, you've got to try and keep them warm a bit. You know, I used to say that retention starts on the first day they turn up, whereas now I think it does start with the offer letter. Because then what happens is organisations start to overstock. You know, they needed 5 new young staff, but they take 8, thinking 2 won't turn up. And then if they all do turn up, they've got to find a way of getting rid of 3 of them.
Oh, no.
Which is not very ethical either.
No, it's true. I mean, the reality is, if you are applying for multiple jobs, which most sensible person would, they might get 3 or 4 offers. And obviously they're going to take one of them, you know, so they might feel embarrassed to not to say, oh, but by the way, I've got another job, but they need to do that too.
That's possible, but the message I hear over and over again from young professionals at the moment is that if you've got a job, hang on to it, because the reality of not having one at the moment is really pretty dire.
Right, so it's unlikely that they've been offered 4 and that's why they haven't turned up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's possible they might have a better offer, and the word on the street about employers spreads so quickly these days. You know, you're able to compare experiences and look at what every aggrieved or happy ex-employee has said about a place. There's a lot of reputation management that goes on these days as well.
Yeah. Is recruitment as big a deal as it used to be? I remember I used to have so many friends that worked in recruitment, and it was a really good career path to go down because of AI and technology and things. Is it still as prevalent as it used to be?
Well, there's no shortage of people I see and hear about who are specialists in particular industries. And I think there will always be a job for finding the very best people, which no CV or application letter, if people are still doing that, will say. But I think it's also true that the big job boards are absorbing a lot of traffic. So I couldn't tell you how many people work in it now compared to what used to be the case. But in terms of the big names in the industry, they attract an awful lot of attention.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of others to look at as well, which aren't in those big ones, which I hear being recommended a lot too.
Yeah. I feel like it used to happen a lot more, the whole idea of right place, right time, that you could meet someone in a pub even, and get talking to them and end up being employed, but, getting a job and things like that. But now there's so many protocols and systems in place, and unless you've got like a connection with someone, you've got to do it right. Otherwise you're never going to get your foot in the door.
Yeah, that's true. But there's also, there's hundreds of thousands young professionals in the 20s in the UK who are directors in companies' house already, many of whom have got another job. So they're already working more than one. And they've actually got a lot of experience in those other jobs to bring to their own workplace as well. There's plenty of them that are deciding to go their own way because they can't rely on the job market, or to make sure they've got something in the back pocket should the next round of cuts fall on them. Yeah.
And speaking to young people, how do they feel about being called the snowflake generation? I mean, that must have an impact on them, I would have thought.
Well, no one likes being stereotyped. And the idea of it, I think generation's a helpful concept to look at outlooks over time and just how life changes and how that might affect how you see the world. But it's not something that goes on your passport or your birth certificate. So that they, more than anybody, don't like being put under a certain category and being labelled and all those kinds of things. The ones I've sponsored liaised with recently have got a much bigger problem with the cost of living and how easy it is to get work than what everyone might say about them. It's their ability to earn. And make sure there isn't a whole lot of month left at the end of the money, which are the bigger concerns.
Yeah, that makes sense. We should be a lot more understanding of younger people, I think.
Yeah, well, I think my challenge is to encourage my peer group to want to see the world through a younger person's eyes.
Yeah.
And I think when you do, your perspective changes.
Definitely. Oh, well done for doing this book. It's a great idea. I think a lot of people will take a lot from the interview and hopefully from the book as well. If people want to get a copy of The Snowflake Myth, it's available now on our website, TRE.radio. It explains Generation Z in the workplace and beyond. And it's by Alex Atherton, who we've been chatting with. Alex, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.